And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday Live. I'm Steve Leahy. Thanks for coming by. We have a little bit of show and tell today first before we jump into the painting for the day. So we'll get that going right away. I just wanted to kind of give you the kind of backstory on what today's painting is about. So I've had this YouTube channel for a really long time. So I started it back in 2011, but literally didn't touch it. There's a couple videos on it, and that was it. I just kind of made it as a place marker. So about 4 months ago, I decided that it was time to really push it and get it up to where it should be. I've been doing a lot of live feeds on YouTube, and there have been a lot of videos, and YouTube is just a great place to kind of have all that stuff in one spot so that it makes sense. So in doing that, what I like to do when I'm picking up a new endeavor is to look to people who have done it right. So I started watching a lot of YouTube videos all across the board, musicians, artists, and I came across this group of people who have channels that are based around science and that also get into debunking pseudoscience and things that aren't quite supported or proven. So one of these people was SciManDan, and I have his link in the chat box there, and I'll put it in the description as well. I kind of got hooked on him. He's quite a character. He knows what he's talking about, and he has a couple playlists on his channel. Every Tuesday he does Tinfoil Tuesday, and then Friday he does Flat Earth Friday, as well as a lot of other videos and then podcasts as well. So I kind of got hooked. At the end of the day, I was just kind of like looking at different things, and I would have just been watching his videos. So anyway. Whenever I run across someone who I spend time with, either musicians when I'm working, if I hook onto a musician that I really like, that usually ends up being a painting at some point. So Dan is no exception. So I thought that I would do a painting for him to kind of give him a quick thanks for the entertainment. It has been a lot of fun. So that's the whole story behind it. So what we'll do is we'll switch around. I'll show you a little bit of show and tell, and then we'll get right to it. All right, let's take a look. Hello, Enzo. Svi, what's up? Good evening, sir. Yes, this is my total UK edition because SciManDan is from the UK. And actually, some of the other YouTubers I watch, including Svi, are also in the UK. So it's and of course this feed today is because a lot of the UK people and that side of the pond people jump onto the Facebook feed, which is on much later for them. It starts at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So this gives everyone on that side of the pond a little bit better shot at kind of, hanging out. So it's not middle of the night. Let me jump over here so I can get the comments over here. I think that'll be a little bit easier than trying to catch them over there. All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Paul, what's going on? All right. So I'm going to move this before, but I didn't. So let me swing this around. This is the one bit of show and tell that I have. So I showed this on the my post, one of my posts this week, as well as I've featured it on the Facebook live feed too. This is the painting Three Amigos. It's on ampersand board, and it's one of the first paintings that I started with the HD stencil. So this one is, I really want this to go to a good home, so I decided to offer a little bit of a discount on this. Actually, a bit of a discount on this one. So this is, you can get 30% off this painting just by typing in Amigo in the store. Just go to StephenLeahy.com. It's right in the featured products, one of the featured products. So that is Three Amigos. I really like this painting a lot. But again, I want this to kind of go to a good home. It's been here too long. So we'll put that guy aside. And let's get right to it. All right. So again, with SciManDan, or any painting like this, what I wanted to do is I wanted to try to get a, it's my illustrator kind of background. So I end up wanting to tell a story with the painting more than some of the other paintings. I mean, the car paintings and that bike painting, for instance, they tell a story all on their own, but really they're just image driven. So they are just, the image tells a story essentially by itself. There's only one real thing going on, and people just kind of sit back and you know, enjoy that painting. But with this is more of an illustrative type painting where I'm really telling a bigger story with it. So what I do, or let me show you what I've got so far, because I've done a lot of this beforehand, because this is a longer painting essentially. So I posted this earlier. So I tried to get as many of the objects and things that Dan covers in his videos in this one little painting. So one of the big things is his Flat Earth Friday, where he goes and basically counters the flat earthers' lack of science, I guess, with the actual science that explains what they're trying to claim causes the Earth to be flat, which is a lot of fun. So that's one. And before I get into this, I should preface this as well. I am of the firm belief that people can believe whatever they want to believe. I think that's awesome. It's what makes humans so special. However, the moment someone takes money from someone, or that their beliefs change the health or well-being of someone else, then I think those people need to be called out. So both Dan and Creaky Blinder and Planner Walk, all those great debunkers, they really seem to focus on those type of people. Again, if you believe that the Earth is flat, that's totally cool. If you are selling tickets to a convention for a flat Earth and making money off of other people, then you deserve to be challenged. And that's what these guys do, which I like so much. So I figured I'd preface it all with that. JP, what's up? Dan, what is going on? Yes, Dan, it is on its way. You should have that momentarily. I'm glad you got that, Dan. And if you didn't see that, you're on YouTube now. So that I did the whole time lapse. So you actually could see that whole painting being created. Tom, what's up? Excellent. Yes, Thomas, yes. That's the other thing too. I went from like 50 subscribers for like 12 years to jumping up to that magic 1,000 number. So I do have something planned for that as well. We're going to give away a little bit of art for that. But yeah, thank you all for anyone and everyone who has subscribed. It is amazing. Tone, what's up? Oh, it's all good, Tone. Yes, so if you haven't subscribed, please do, and help me push over that magic 1,000 number as I continue on to, you know, hopefully make this channel a little bit for everyone. So, all right. So it's easy with Dan and the topics that I could come up with. He covers so many things, and his videos cover so many different tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory type things. It was a breeze to really come up with the ones. So what I tried to do is I tried to pick up the ones that were closest to his heart in a way. So one of the things he always goes after is ISS, people who feel that the International Space Station is not real. So I had to throw that in there, and of course I had to throw that on a string to show that it is not real, it is just hanging there. Another one is his favorite planet in the solar system is Mars. So anyone who creates videos about either Mars not being there or Mars being inhabited by aliens or anything like that, or the fact, or trying to say that we haven't gone to Mars, he usually goes after that too. So I had to get Mars in there, so that's it. The Space Isn't Real is another really good one that I enjoy watching. So that's your corner of space being peeled down, revealing, of course, the conspiracy behind it, which is the Matrix. And then, and I mentioned the flat Earth. It's always a good one. And then, of course, the beginning of his videos start with a cartoon of him being sucked into a tin hat. So that's where the tin hat came from. So that's how I kind of did it. And again, I could have done just a portrait of him, and that would have been great. But I really felt I needed to kind of tell the whole story. So the photo that I picked of him, he has this great look. When someone says something really outrageous, he just kind of has this almost shocked look, like, I've heard everything, but I can't believe I've heard that. So I grabbed a still from one of his videos of him doing just that, and that is the photo that I came out with of him. So that's what we'll be doing today. We'll be kind of knocking out the portrait of him and getting that on there. So that's it. Ian, what's up? What's going on? I'm at the day job. That's awesome, Tone. What else we got? That's it. You guys are awesome. So again, this one was a little bit different than a normal, like those 543s I do, where I just kind of lay it all out. This was obviously a lot of the background I just kind of did as I put it together. I just wanted the main parts of it, which is him, the hat, and the Earth kind of on there. Obviously, I didn't do the, under ferment or whatever they call what's under flat earth is supposed to be under there. I didn't do that. I painted that in too. I just wanted the basic to kind of block it off so that I could do the whole star field in the background. The one thing I didn't get on this, which I should have, and I may still do something with it, is that another popular topic for him to go after is people who don't believe that evolution is happening. So I was going to have some sort of DNA strand in there too. So I might still do that too. But we'll see. It gets to a point too where this is going to get too busy, and then you start losing things. And I have hid a bunch of stuff in here too, so that makes it fun too. So again, I don't want it over the top crazy. So all right. So what I'm going to do right now is the first thing I do, and this from here on out, it's pretty much just a standard portrait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat it like that. Now, most YouTubers or anyone who does videos really are usually really well lit. You know, they're lit like a newscaster. So they're lit from several different spots. That doesn't make for a good portrait. If you watch some of them who have, you know, really strong lighting on one side, you know, that's a little bit easier, but those are a little bit more rare than the standard, you know, we're going to light up your whole face because, you know, you're doing essentially something like a newscast or whatever. So there's plenty of shadow on his face here, so that's going to give me everything I need. I tried to look for an image of him that wasn't like totally washed out in that there was light coming from everywhere, because then it makes it hard to do the portrait. So this has a good light source on it. So that's kind of what we were looking at. So what I'm going to do first. Oh, cool, Dan. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm glad you got that. And I think I mentioned it too, Dan. That the visor of Buzz Aldrin's helmet is 23 karat gold leaf too. So that was a special one too. Cody Adams, what's up, buddy? And it's cold here in Ohio, but I'm warm, so I'm gonna take off my sweatshirt there and get comfortable. So what I'm going to do first is, essentially what I do is I get in all the white areas first, or the lightest areas. And again, today's video is geared towards, you know, kind of watching the paint process. So I'm going to kind of hit that more of a technical way. But if you have any questions, just feel free to kind of let me know. So I've talked about this a lot before, and anyone who airbrushes will know this too. If you put white over a darker color, especially a warmer color, that white will shift to blue. So you can't see it in here because I've avoided it all over the place. Essentially, whenever there was like the tinfoil hat, for instance, I sprayed that all the highlights that are in the middle right there, that was the first thing to go on. If I had done all the details and then popped in those white highlights afterwards, the whole tinfoil hat would have looked like it was a very pale blue. It's just something that something that happens with the way that the light kind of passes through the tiny bits of paint on the edge of the white areas, and it reflects back that blue, or refracts back that blue, and it makes it look pale blue. So I want to avoid that, especially on his face. So to do that, I'm going to actually get all of the white area or lightest areas in first. So this is, again, you know, I talked about this on one of the Tech Tuesdays. This is when a stencil is not a stencil. It's just a drawing guide. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So I will put this here. I might move you guys a little bit. Oh, and the other thing too, while I'm thinking of it, let me swap over here for a second, because we have some fun stuff now too. I took care of all the cables and fun stuff that I needed. So now we have the palette cam, which is fun. So there's a camera that's right above the palette off to my right. And actually I can, I can't show you yet because I just inset it. But now what I can do is, as you're watching here, that's not going to work because I have it over there. So let me switch it over to here first. There we go. So now I can have it in the actual scene. So now you guys can see what's going on, and I'll make that a little bit bigger so that you guys can make it out, because I'll be going back and forth from the palette a lot. There we go. Today's cheers is Dunkin' Donuts coffee, so they're keeping it real caffeinated. All right, so what I'm going to do is, so when I have a portrait like this, and I want to get those lightest areas in, what I want to do is I kind of want to make a roadmap of that. So, and that's exactly what it is. So if you're trying to get to a place, usually the first thing you do if you're looking at a map and not just plugging into Waze or Google, Google Maps, is you look for that town that you're going to. Once you have that town, now you have a general idea of where that town is in relationship to you. And then you can get into, okay, where in that town is the street that I'm looking for? And then where in the town is that house that I'm looking for? Or where on that street is the house that I'm looking for? And so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start the light areas by defining essentially where the town is, just the general areas. So I'm going to start, obviously his cheeks are the lightest on this side. So I'm going to cut that out. And above his eyelid too is the same way. Actually, all the way around his eye, I can probably get away with doing that. Because again, this is not, I'm not treating this like a stencil in that I'll just spray through it and whatever I get, I get. It really just acts as a guide to where I should be airbrushing. And I'll show you that when we get there. So now his cheek on this side has that shadow, and it's kind of a shadow, but it's also 5 o'clock shadow too, which makes it nice as well. Because anywhere where there's a contrast, dark and light, that's just going to help define the face. So it works out really well. So I'm going to take out that first. The whites of his eyes are obviously very bright, so we're going to take those too. And hopefully you guys, my fingers are in the way. So let me swap this around. We'll move this up here so you can get a little bit better shot of what I'm doing. That's probably going to be better. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Oh yeah, well Cody, you know what? I have Mr. McKay to thank for 99% of the tech that I use right now. When I was, like I said, when I was really feeling that I needed to kind of step things up, this was even before I started pushing the YouTube channel. I knew that I needed, I wanted multiple cameras. I wanted to be able to do a lot of the camera switching live, because that's what I was doing. It wasn't so much post-production stuff that I needed it for. So Scott really had a great setup, so I leaned on him a lot for information. So yeah, he is far ahead of me though. Let's make sure we're honest here. Yeah, he's got quite a setup there. So he would give NASA a run for its money, of course, if NASA wasn't a corrupt Freemason juggernaut, I guess. There will be a lot of that today, because I have been having a good time. So with all these videos. So yes, I do actually believe that we went to the moon. No, I don't believe that Photoshop was a thing back in 1969. I believe the rover is on Mars. I believe, the pictures from NASA are actual pictures from the real places. But again, if you are of the belief that some of that is not the way it is, I would love to watch one of these debunkings or debates where the person claiming these crazy, not crazy, but things that go against what we definitely know. I would love to see someone mount an argument to kind of shut down a scientist, to say, I actually haven't thought of that. But in all the videos I've watched on both sides, I have never seen that. So yay science. All right, so again, anywhere where there's white, hopefully you're seeing what I'm doing. Anywhere where there's brightness, I'm just kind of cutting out that area. So on his ear, parts of his ear and things like that. I started on his eye but never finished it. So I'm going to grab that. I'll do his nose too a little bit, just to kind of get that in there as well. I don't have to be super careful with this. Again, this is just, you'll see when I paint the white in, it's really just like to generally get stuff in the right spots. It'll just give me an idea. So it doesn't have to be super perfect. Scott McKay has his dad's blueprint from Saturn V. Is there a Masonic symbol anywhere on that, Scott? That's my question to you. Some of them are great. What it shows me is how vivid some people's imaginations can be. I mean, the stories that they come up with are pretty intense. I mean, people have spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff. I also want to preface my you can believe whatever you want, or these, what the debunkers do. if someone has a legitimate mental illness, like if they are legitimately like clinically paranoid, none of these guys go after people like that because that's a medical problem. So to laugh at someone like that is not cool. And like I said, the guys and girls that I've kind of watched doing this recently, no one goes after anyone like that. So so there's that being said too. But yeah, it's been fun. I could tell, but that's right. You have to douse your priceless Saturn V blueprints in lemon juice, and hang it over a pit of fire made of small animals as sacrifice to see the actual message, I'm sure. All right, so I'm going to get the bridge of his nose here, or the top edge of his nose. Again, this looks very, very strange, and I'm glad this does look strange. If you're trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing, it'll make sense when I kind of paint this in. So just kind of, if you've never seen me do this or seen an airbrush artist do this, just kind of bear with me on it, and it'll make sense when I kind of start getting things going. And I'm going to get, now his eyes aren't, the whites of his eyes aren't pure white, they're actually gray. But again, I'm going to be using white to put these in, but it's again just a landmark. It's just a place to kind of know that I need to aim paint in that spot. Yeah, some of those things, man, I'm like, and what I find is a lot of the people who come up with these things that are strictly like their own observation. There's nothing behind it. They don't have any way to prove it. It's just, well, this looks like this, so this is what it is. And then it always ends up devolving into, the reason why I can't tell you or I can't prove this is because some covert operation, like government organization is like blocking all the true info. It always ends that way. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but it's not cool. So yeah, Creaky Blinder is another good one that I find, and I've found a lot of the other ones through Dan's channel. He has special guests come on every once in a while, so it's been a lot of fun. All right, so I think I've got everything. The edge of his shirt here is not very bright, but with anything that's farther away from the areas that I kind of want to grab, I can do those too, because I'm not going to really hit that very hard. I just want to ghost in a little bit of white on that, but I can kind of get a little bit of everything. And I think I want to, even though this top of his ear isn't very bright, I think I want to grab that too. And again, you'll see it when I kind of fade the white in here. It's going to just going to define the top edge of his ear instead of having to kind of mess around. Oh yes, and that's true. So Scott McKay, who is on right now, we were just talking about, he is going to be on his live stream tonight if you're around. I missed last week because I had brought my daughter to the airport and spent the rest of the day just trying to catch up, which was fun. I had a lot of stuff done already, but I still need a lot of other things to kind of get ready for the weekend and this week. So I missed Scott last week, but yeah, I should be on tonight to catch him. Okay, so again, I made these photocopies. So these are what I used to lay this out. So essentially, I'll show you the kind of the quick process without going through every little bit in piece. So what I did was, originally when I started this painting, I cut out another photocopy with Dan, kind of placed it where it was supposed to be. And when I put this here, he magically disappears. It must be some sort of, like, I don't know, I'll have to think of a good conspiracy for that, some black ops thing. But anyway, I have the copy of him here, and then I was able to spray the whole background. Now, when I did this, I also took a piece of paper and blocked off this fold in space. Do I have it? I might have thrown it out. I did. I threw it out because I really didn't need it. But I blocked off this whole corner so that when I sprayed the stars, the sky and the stars and everything, that area was blocked off. I can't remember if I think I blocked off the whole corner, and then, yeah, I did that. I blocked off the whole corner, and then I grabbed another straight edge and I just ran it across and then sprayed this corner black so I could do the matrix stuff. But I did all that, did the stars. I did kind of cut out a oh, I don't know what they call underneath the flat earth, underferment or whatever it is. So I did that too, so that when I could put the stars down in here as well. And that was the first step. And then now when I had that, I was able to do the same thing, kind of cut up pieces of, you know, flat earth and all that fun stuff and get all those in, and it was the same kind of thing. So that's how we got to where we are right now. Chris Garcia, what's up, buddy? Gotta love Thursdays, Leahy McKay double feature. Cody, yeah, isn't that fun? All right, so when I've got this now at this point, this obviously, because it's the same copy, you know, same, I just made a bunch of, let me show you. I just made a page of them in that program that's used to create the moon and Mars, and which is our favorite Photoshop. So again, Photoshop came out pre-1969 so that they had it for the moon landing so that they could Photoshop all the pictures, just so you know. Now originally I was going to do this painting 5x7. It would have looked like this, but it seemed too much. So I ended up backing out and going back to this 3" by 4" format. I think it works a lot better. All right, so line this up. I think I still have white in the brush because I was just working on another painting. Used a jumbo magnet. I don't use jumbo magnets for this. I can use the regular magnets. And I don't have to really nail this down with magnets like I normally do because I don't want a hard edge on this at all. Again, I'll get you guys a little bit closer so you can see where this is going. But yeah, I don't want a hard edge on this at all. I want this to be really, well, you'll see. Like a roadmap, that's not what you want to see. Didn't tighten that all the way. Sorry. Here we go. That's better. Did you ever do a Tech Tuesday on how to paint chrome? Enzo, I don't know if I did. Ah, and the Skull Squad, of course, my buddy Mike. Again, all these people that have, you know, great channels like Mike's Brush and Scott and everyone. I did use, you know, I watch a lot of the videos, and again, it's not reinventing the wheel for me. You know, it's never, I try not to do that at all. So if someone has something really, really working very, very well, I try to kind of see what they're doing, and certainly Mike's Brush and my buddy Scott have some really cool stuff going on. So yeah, Mike is certainly one of those too. All right, so let me, I don't know if I have any of this left. I do. So this is 1 to 5 white. So it's 1 part paint to 5 parts reducer. And it is welded shut. What do you know? I don't use 1 to 5 that much. Usually it's just 1 to 1, but I'm going to use 1 to 5 right now because I want this to be a real soft, transparent white. And the more reducer you add to this stuff, the more transparent and more controllable it gets, and that's what I want. Again, if I was just painting in, like when I was doing the continents or the white part of his tinfoil hat, I was using like a more opaque white because I really just wanted to get the white in there. This is a lot different. This is me just kind of, again, doing a roadmap. Incidentally, when I pull this off, if you have a good eye, you might have noticed that the highlight on the tinfoil hat is on the wrong side of his face. I just went online and found a really cool looking tinfoil hat on, you know, just an image. And unfortunately, before I put it on him in the Photoshop, you know, when I was Photoshopping it, I didn't reverse it. I should have flipped it so that the light was all coming from the same side. But I did that in the painting, so it wasn't a big deal. All right. What do we got? If you didn't, you would do one in the future. Yeah, Enzo, I think that's a really good idea. Oh, Scott, were you really? That's awesome, buddy. Thank you. Aw. Oh, that's awesome, Scott. I'll take it. Yes, Enzo, that's a really, really good idea. I could do like a simple chrome, like even like the tinfoil, where it's really, you know, not that's this involved, but something like that. That's a really good idea. I think I might end up taking you up on that. All right, so I have the photo off to the side here. You can just barely see it on the side. So what I'm going to do again, this isn't a stencil. It's a guide for me. So first let me get the white to start spraying. And what I'm doing is I'm spraying probably about a 64th or a 32nd of an inch away from that edge. I'm going to zoom this in. My monitor, the other thing I got to do is I got to buy a much better monitor to see what the camera sees. But I'm hoping that that's in focus for you. If it isn't, just shout it out and let you know. But so what I'm doing is, and I'll point to this because the white is really light, I'm spraying here along this edge like this, and I'll be real careful when I get down into this part, because again, I don't want this hard edge. And if you've really never used an airbrush, most people have an idea of how it works. It atomizes paint and then sprays it out, so that when you see a stencil, you think stencil, like lettering stencil, like on the side of the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones, which was also Black Ops stuff too. So the trick with getting into airbrushing and getting the most out of these stencils or these cutouts is to kind of be able to do them both ways. Sometimes you want a real hard edge out of it, and sometimes you don't. So this is one good instance where I really don't. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at the photograph next to me, which now you can't see, the copy, and I'm actually kind of following, I'll move it over so you can see it. I'm following these lighter areas, like on his cheek and underneath the, the upper cheek here. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm kind of using that as where to put it, but I'm using this as to, like, gets me in the town. And then now what I'm doing is I'm looking for the street, essentially. I'm getting those details in as I spray this in. So it's kind of a twofer. Awesome. Yes, Svi's on Saturdays, which is great. Again, because of the UK thing, he's on right in the afternoon. So if I'm just kind of hanging out, I can usually catch him too, especially if I'm working. And it's great because you start getting into this, and you start finding all these other channels that everyone else is kind of following, and it just, like anything, it just keeps leading you around, which is a blast. So I've caught up with a bunch of cool scale model builders because of Svi, so that's been really a lot of fun too. This brush, this Custom Micron C with the white, is one of my favorite combinations. So I do have a Micron B, which is even a finer detail brush, but this brush processes this white paint so well with such fine control. It's just a blast. The B tends to get clogged a little bit more because it's so tiny, but this one really does a great job. Yes, Simon, I got the palette cam up and running. Can I switch to that? Yeah. I'm very excited. We haven't done any palette cam stuff yet, and I got to change the color on that too. I'll do that after on that camera. It's awful yellow, but I'll fix that. But yeah, I'm very excited for the palette cam. Thanks to again to Scott for telling me what to do. All right, so his other cheek here, that's in the light. It's the same deal. I'm kind of rolling up to that edge, but I'm keeping my distance from it. And again, the brush allows me, this airbrush allows me to do that. If I had a heavier duty brush like like the Revolution or even the HPCS from them, from Iwata, I couldn't get that type of control. It would just spray over pretty much the whole thing. I mean, that's generalization, but essentially that's what you'll run into. Because it wasn't meant to do that. It was meant to be more of a, general purpose detail brush. All right, so the tip of his nose is the same deal. But now I think you're kind of picking up on how, even though that weird flap there that I cut out for his nose, it's not really what I'm using as the guide. I mean, as a paint, for the painting. I'm just using it as the guide. So between his eyes as well. Incidentally, I was very happy to hear from SciManDan when I posted this morning. So I'm going to be sending this to him for his enjoyment. So that was a lot of fun. He is as gracious as he is in his videos. So that was great. I found that with the Infinity, the Hardwood Steam Deck Infinity, the tiny nozzle just gets blocked all the time, so I run the big one. Exactly. Yeah, that H&S is like the B. It's like a micro small brush, which I still got to get one of those. I'm gonna get that done. It's hard for me to justify that brush though, because what I'll do is, I mean, I'll use it every once in a while, but I'll be afraid to like smash it around. So it'll end up sitting on the Hall of Fame wall. And that's not good for a brush. You want to be able to use it. All right, so again, his eyes aren't white, but I'm using that as a guide. So I'm actually spraying just against the iris of his eye. And I'm letting the rest of the overspray kind of do the rest of the work there. So that will give that eye a little bit of roundness to it just out of the gate. And I'll be working on it a lot as we go. But again, what we're doing is we're locking in, I'm just locking in all the brightest areas. And, oh, I missed his ears. So I've been, like I said, he has a bunch of neat playlists. What I decided to do, since I found him a little while ago, I just decided to watch through each playlist individually. And what he does is he has the regular, like the tinfoily type conspiracy video on Tuesday, and then a devoted flat earth video on Friday. So what I've done is I've watched all the Tuesday ones in a row. And that's been really interesting to see, like from the beginning of his channel, the way it's changed over the couple of years that he's been really doing this hard. So it'll be fun when I get back to, get finished with those videos and can jump back to the Flat Earth Fridays. But because I'll be able to essentially start the channel over again. And then once I'm pretty much caught up, then I'll be able to start watching the new content. It's just kind of the way I like to do it. Dave, what's up? Yay, Dave, welcome. The 0.8 or 1.8 are designed for the ink consistency, not pigmented color, so thicker colors need tweaking. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, the new opaque colors from Createx, I find I can reduce those down, and you'll see that here because I'll use the B on this. I can reduce it down, and it sprays really great, even as a pigmented paint. Just the way that stuff works is just amazing. All right, so I think I've got everything, but I'm not sure. So essentially what I'll do is I'll put a big time magnet on this so it doesn't move. And I'm very sad. We talk about these neodymium magnets all the time. This is what happens if they snap together. So neodymium, the material that makes up these magnets, is very porous. It has an extremely strong magnetic pull to them, but it's very fragile. That's why whenever you see neodymium magnets, they always have some sort of coating on them, and that's done to protect them more than anything. Plus, it makes them look good. But if these two snap together, like the two square ones I had, these two here, these two snapped together and the corner broke off. It just shattered. So I'm kind of bummed about that because I like these magnets. And when they're broken like that, you can still use them, but they become a little bit more dangerous. So I've got the magnet on there, so the copy isn't going to move now. So now I can kind of pick this up and I can look to see how I did, to see if I missed anything. And I feel really good about that. There's nothing else really that I need to grab. If I need to put, and I will put some more white on this, that's fine. I can get that done, but I want to get the bulk of it in now. Because I don't want to put, again, I don't want to put the lighter color on like a dark shading. Like I said, I did a video on it. A lot of people have done videos on that blue shift, and it happens all the time. So if you want to come up with an awesome conspiracy theory about blue shift, I would love that, and that would be a lot of fun, but I'll leave that for you guys. Magnets from old computer hard drives are awesome. If you have some old hard drives kicking around, that's really good to know. I do actually have two old, crappy, dead computers right behind me. I might scavenge them. That's exciting. I need to check this guy's channel. Yeah, Simon, he's a blast. He's a blast. I really have enjoyed watching him. And then, from Wales, you have Creaky Blinder, which is another fun one. Creaky's a little bit more aggressive. He more takes no prisoners. I feel Dan is more of a proper English gentleman sometimes, although he does get into it when he has to. But yeah, they are two different people, but in the way that they approach what they do, but they both do the same thing. And it's been a lot of fun watching them. All right. So what I normally do with these 543s is I'll do the lightest area and then I'll do the darkest area. And then that'll give me both ends of the spectrum. So then I can kind of work on it from there. So I'm going to back you guys out while I cut this next one. Actually, I'll slide this over. I want to get this done this week. So I'm going to paint till it looks like something. I might not get it done here live, but there's a chance I will. Sometimes these portraits become very nitpicky at the end. Like it literally comes down to, well, if you could use a computer analogy, it comes down to pixels when you're getting near the end, because sometimes things aren't in the quite right spot, and even a tiny little variation in a small portrait like this can make a big difference. So in the end of these really small portraits, sometimes I end up having to go back and forth more than is entertaining, video. So we'll see how it goes though. Lee Jordan, what's up, buddy? Excellent. All right. So next up is all the dark areas. He has dark hair, which is great. But what I got to keep in mind is there's space behind him here. So I want to eventually make sure that there's a division there, so it doesn't look like he's bald. But I'll get that at the end. For now, I'll cut that out to kind of get his hair in. But anywhere where it's darkest is what I'm going to start with. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of, on the next pass with the next template, I'll just get the slightly darker areas, and then usually it takes about, I don't know, the lightest stencil, the darkest stencil, a medium one, maybe an extra one after that, but after that it's pretty much done. So it does come together pretty quick. William Klein, what is up? And thank you, everyone. I'm super excited to hit the magical 1,000 mark. It's been growing faster than I expected. I've been doing a lot of checking on what to expect for average growth and all that fun stuff, and you guys have just been absolutely amazing. I don't know what to say other than thank you, and I'll keep saying thank you because it is a blast. I'm having a good time. Eyebrows. I can do his eyebrows. Anywhere where there's a softer edge, I got to kind of keep that reference photo nearby so that, actually I'll get you in closer because I'm cutting. I'll keep the reference photo nearby, like with his eyebrows. His eyebrows aren't, Groucho Marx. They're not completely black. So when I go to spray this in, this way I can keep that in mind. And have that, again, it's not the hardest part is to get your head out of it's a stencil, I have to spray the whole thing. And I see that all the time with new people, and it's normal, it's natural to have that kind of stencil mentality. So the faster you break that, or the faster you add using them as a guide more than anything to your repertoire, the more doors open up. Yeah, that's it, Lee. I'm trying. Mine's on the reverse. I'm losing 20 odd subs a week. Yeah, but Svi, you had a big channel when you were running it. I know you took some time off, so I'm sure that's a just a temporary thing. Now that you're back into it, I'm sure that'll jump back to where it was as far as the growth goes. So, all right. So above his eyelid here, I can grab that. Obviously his iris too. You can't see his pupil in this picture, which is fine. And it's also the thing of kind of painting what you see, especially on this scale. It's so easy to have your brain say, all right, that's his eye. I know there's a pupil in there, so I'm going to paint that in too. And your brain loves to do that when you're kind of working, especially small. It just will start putting in things like eyelashes are a good example for this painting too. You can't see his eyelashes. You can get a feel for where they are by the shadow under his lid, but you can't see them. But your brain says, oh, there's eyelashes there. So you end up painting eyelashes, and all of a sudden he looks like a cartoon. So there's a lot of that too as well. Now I'm coming in when I cut out his iris here. I'm coming in a little bit because I know I can't cut a perfect circle like that. So by coming in a little bit, when I go use the paintbrush on that, I'll be able to create that perfect circle. So another little fun tip. Yeah, Mark, that's exactly it. And it's something that I wrestle with all the time. You know, it's like my brain wants to figure out what it is. And sometimes you need to. Like we were talking about chrome earlier. Sometimes it's a really good idea to look at that chrome and know what that weird reflection is in it, because then it helps you kind of put it together or deconstruct it so you can figure out how to paint it. So sometimes you need that, but I always err on the side of, you know, having my brain just kind of like take a back seat to my eyes when I'm working on stuff like this to start. Especially on a portrait, because it's, again, you know that it's a cheek, and you know that that's an ear and lips, and especially lips too, because you have this idea of what a set of lips looks like. And you know, it's like if you're playing Pictionary and you have lips as your, I can't get this out, what the hell? If you have lips as your prompt for Pictionary, everyone does the same thing, right? And so our brain knows that means lips, but that's not what's happening right here. So, and granted, that's kind of, you know, basic and straw man-y, but it really is what it is. I mean, it's like, it's an oversimplification of what happens, but it really does. It happens. So, all right, so his nostrils are a big one because that'll kind of set up the rest of his nose. So we'll grab those as well. And I don't want to also make this sound like this is the only way to do this. I just, you know, I was hanging out last night watching Timothy John Luke Smith's live feed, and he is a proper portrait artist. So if you watch how he paints, it's completely different than this. You know, it's almost like a Polaroid picture developing. It just develops very slowly and gradually and under a great amount of control. And, you know, and then you have someone else who paints in oils, and it's a whole different deal, or watercolors. It's just, there's a million ways to do this. And unfortunately for us, you know, art as a science as it is with color wavelengths and things like that, it is not a science as to how you can apply that science to this. So he's different. Definitely, he likes it low and slow. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Yeah, it's a whole different, and I love it because if you're smart at your observation and your learning, you'll take a little bit of what everyone gives you, and that's where your personal style is going to come from. You're filtering all those different techniques, the ones that are correct, you know, the ones that aren't off the wall, but you're filtering all those techniques, and you're coming out with something that's your own, and that's really how that happens. All right, so I'll get the bottom of his chin here. That's pretty dark. I want to avoid the midtones here. Those will come in the next pass. So I want to kind of stick to the really darkest areas. So I might put in the crease of his lips. Maybe that would be a good place to start there. This is always dangerous though, because if there's any misalignment here when I go to put in his lips for real, I'm going to have to redo this anyway. And I talked about this on the Monday night feed. I got in my new fancy super precision slice blade. So these are the ceramic knife blades that are made by this company, Slice. I really, really, really wanted this to work. I bought the original one, the one that looks like more like a number 11 X-Acto like this, but it has this weird turn down at the end that's designed to keep it like safe keep you from cutting yourself. However, for me, it also keeps it from doing any kind of real detailed type cutting. So I got this guy because it said precision cutter, and it also does not have the same finesse and accuracy that a good old number 11 has. Plus, the other weird thing is the way it just kind of, the blade just kind of pops out of this big orange replaceable cartridge. When you're trying to do real close stuff with this, like really tight, you can't see the blade. All you see is the big orange thing in the way. So now structurally they may have needed to do that because the blade was too small to just be, you know, thin and out in the open. I'm almost guarantee. And this whole cartridge just comes out somehow, so you can replace the whole thing. But what I ended up using this on now is I use this for scratching now. It works well for that. Composite blades, yeah. Exactly. What else did I miss? Thanks, Lee. Thanks for the thumbs. Yes, I appreciate that too. As we thwart the algorithm god. Okay, so I got that and that and that. Oh, I'll do his top of his ear too. This is really dark on this ear, on the inside of his ear, so I'll kind of grab that too. Again, it gets to a point now where I'm going to start looking at some of the lighter gray, or the lighter gray areas. I want to not cut any of those out, like his mustache, or there's the 5 o'clock shadow. I don't want to get any of that in, or like the where his goatee would be, where that shadow under his lip. I don't want to get that either. I do want to maybe grab his eyelid though. This is a dangerous cut because it's so close to the pupil, so we'll see what happens. What I definitely don't want to do is connect those two. And again, this is where freaking X-Acto blades are amazing. And this thing is stupid sharp. I do go through a lot of them though. And I'll flip this over so you can see this cut, but that is a proper cut. Get rid of this. Don't need that. So when I flip this over, that's what we got there. So those are the darkest areas right there. And I think that's going to be good. I might as well get the top of this ear too. Oh, awesome. That's cool, Tom. Yeah, and that's kind of the way I feel about watching everyone else. Even if, I mean, it doesn't matter at what point on the art scale they are. I can get stuff out of everyone. Like I see someone doing something with a setup that they have, and I'm like, that's a really good idea, and I grab that. Or if, like I said, those slice blades, if I know a lot of people using them for scratching, and I'm like, oh, it's really cool. I've never seen those before. So yeah, so I get a lot out of stuff like that. All right, let's move this. Move this back here. Now when I put the dark in, it'll pretty much start to come together fast, which is nice. What I want to really make sure though is at this point, things really, 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 really need to be lined up right. Because if I go and screw this up, if I put this in the wrong spot, it is a hassle. Because this is the darkest dark, and can run into a lot of goofiness. But I think I'm good. The tinfoil hat comes down a little bit lower than what I have here, but that's okay. I think that's good. So now this one I do want to kind of lock it. I don't want this moving at all. So I'm going to throw a bunch of magnets on this. These essentially, if you haven't been keeping track, these are also neodymium magnets too. They're small discs, and then I just epoxy a machine screw on them, and that gives me a little handle, because again, these little guys, even though they're small, they really do hold on. So if they don't have the handle, you try to like get your fingers underneath them to pull them up. So I just epoxy the little screws on them. That's how that works. Amazing magnets, for anyone who's going to ask, is where I get all the neodymium magnets that I have. AmazingMagnets.com. They are in, I want to say Arizona, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Yeah, this is it. On this one, it really has to be pretty much spot on. So I will use the Micron B for this because I've got white in the other brush, and I want to keep that way because I may end up needing white again. So for this, I'm going to use, same thing, it's opaque black, but this is mixed 1 to 10. Because I don't want to go super, super dark on this yet, even though this is the darkest areas. Again, because if there's any kind of misalignment here, I want to make sure I can correct that before I get in too deep. Yeah, you guys are in the right spot. Okay, good. So I'll get this flowing over here first, and then I could start working on this. Oh, I also want to keep the reference photo close by, which is, you guys can see it there. Now, same thing here. Even though I have the cutout, I don't know if you can pick it up. You can on this side. You can see just the corner of the tinfoil hat sticking down because it's different. Remember, I flipped it. Yeah. So again, if I just hose this down, the black will go into the tinfoil and it'll look crappy. So this way I can really keep an eye on it and keep it under control so that I won't end up doing that. So again, it's not, even though this is more of a stencil than the white, because there are some hard edges on this, I still don't have to just go in and nail the thing. There could be some finesse to it. I may have missed it, but what when the face was blank before you started white was seal or gray? Dan, that's an excellent question because I did not mention that. Yes, all these paintings, no matter what I'm painting on, whether it's clayboard or aluminum, or I'm going to do a couple titanium paintings, or the X-Acto blades or the razor blades, it's all auto-borne sealer. So this is the same. This is a UPO, the UPO paper, which is polypropylene. It's a polypropylene sheet. So what I do is I clean them and then I spray them with auto-borne sealer, and then I sand them with 1500 and then a Scotch-Brite pad after that. So this one isn't sanded and all that, but you get the idea. So that's the gray, and if I hold it up to the white, you can see the difference. I love doing the black and whites on the gray, and actually this really was inspired by John Luke Smith with his Canson paper. I was doing a bunch of black and white paintings with his Canson paper, so when I switched to the UPO, I wanted that same feel, that gray ground. So give me the dimensions. I'll make you some caps for those. For the airbrushes or for the magnets, Mark? Because yeah, yeah, let me know. I'm not sure. All right, so again, so I've got the black in here. The black, the 1 to 10, allows me to spray with a bunch of control. This 1 to 10 will work really well through the C, that other brush as well. That's about the thinnest that paint that really should be through that brush, because if you go thinner than that, it just becomes kind of out of control. Like if I go with the 1 to 20 mix, but this brush can go down to 1 to 20. I do use 1 to 20 with this, because this brush loves super thin stuff. Oh, the magnets. That's a good question. I'm going to have to go check the order, because what happened was, this is the one size of them. I'm going to have to, yeah, I have to check, because I'm not sure. One was, I don't know. Do I have them? Yeah, these ones here are 3/8, the ones I'm using mostly now. The other thing I didn't realize when I first started buying these, there are neodymium magnets come in different strengths as well, which is measurable. I mean, normally if you buy a magnet from Home Depot, just a regular magnet, you can't really, I mean, I haven't seen the actual strength of them on there, but neodymium is something that they have extreme control about the strengths with them, because they use them for so many different things, like, especially in speakers or headphones and things like that. So I didn't realize that. So when I bought the first round, I actually bought a weaker version. So I went to reorder the proper version, and then I ordered the wrong size, because I thought I was ordering the original size, but I ended up getting a different one. So I had to reorder them. But these are 3/8, I think. Yeah, 3/8. And then what I did was I bought the even smaller ones. These are a quarter. No, these are quarter inch. So these are kind of cool too. So having a good time. Yeah, Tone, it's great. It's great because it gives you that middle ground. You don't have to paint everything anymore. You just end up working on the lights and the darks, and that middle ground is all taken care of for you. It's kind of nice. All right, so while I was talking, I don't know if you saw it, but I kind of did his eyebrows, but what I'm doing is I'm not just kind of, again, I'm not going in and hosing them down and giving the old Groucho Marx treatment. I'm kind of just bouncing back and forth between the reference photo and seeing where, it's darker and lighter and that kind of thing. Because again, once I get them in, when I pull this off, I'll know exactly where they should be, and I can adjust them after. All right, so his eyes are, like I said, they're pretty much, you can't see his pupils because he has really dark, he has brown eyes anyway. So I'm just going to kind of paint them in and then hit the eyelash, or there we go, not the eyelash, above his eye. The eyelashes, but the ridge above his eyes, the eyelid. Other eyes, nostrils. These nostrils I can just kind of float in. They don't have to be. And then we'll hope that I got his mouth in the right spot. Find that out. And I can develop his hair on the other side. Lugo, what's up? Here we go. Yes, and you can epoxy onto the cap. Oh, that's cool. That's awesome, Mark. Yeah, the epoxy works well. It's just what happens is over time, just from pulling them on and off all the time, they do snap off. But then I just re-epoxy them. So it's not usually a big deal. All right, so first thing I'll do is I'll kind of cut across where the tinfoil hat is so I know I won't go over it. And then I'll just spray in that area. So what I'm also doing is, and you'll see this when I pull this off, I didn't go all the way to the outside edge. And so that's going to give me that backlighting, so to speak, so that you'll be able to see his hair against the against space, the fake space, that is. All right, top of his ear, same deal. I've cut out the whole area, but I'm really just gonna shade the top edge where his, the shadow is inside his ear, and on the back side too. And that'll give me the whole kind of shape. This one over here is the same deal, but it's a little bit less noticeable. Okay, same thing for under his chin here. Let's clog it up. It's pretty dark, and then this transitions into his 5 o'clock shadow on his chin. So I could just kind of lay this in because I'm going to be doing a bunch of work on this anyway. And then the folds in his clothes are hard-edged as well, so I can just spray them in as well. I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, and tone, all I do, that color, that gray color, originally I was mixing it up myself with Autoborn Sealer white and black, or dark, I think they call it. I think they call it dark. It might be black, but either way. And then, yeah, I just ended up, I don't have it here, it's up on the other shelf, but I just ended up buying the Autoborn Sealer gray. It's a good color, it's right in the middle, and I don't have to mix any of it. I just literally reduce it 10% and spray it on. And it sticks like hell. So whatever you're spraying on, bike parts, paper, metal, wood, it doesn't matter. You can use that as a ground. It just works really, really well. Did I get everything? Did I get everything? I think I did. Let's see what we got. Nice. So at this point, this is when we kind of semi-panic because we really only have 2 values in here, and it doesn't look anything like him. But as long as everything's lined up, it will come together. So that's the big thing. All right, so next up, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the white now, but with these gray areas, with these like middle tones. These are all fades, and these are all like, transitions from his cheek around to the light part of his cheek. So I'm going to do the same thing I do with the white. I'm going to cut these out, but I'm not going to just spray them in like a shape. I'm going to use them as a guide. Now it gets easier because I do have the white in here and the other parts, so that'll really allow me to kind of tell where things are supposed to be. I need cutting mat. Put that over here. Okay. So this template ends up being really funky looking. So again, because the transitions of this gray are pretty fine. So what I got to do is I just got to try to pick a line that I can see where that gray kind of, it's the very last spot before it moves into a lighter area. So I'm going to basically pull, let's see, this is going to be interesting because I may have to do his lips separate because the 5 o'clock shadow is pretty much one big area. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to treat his lip and his mustache as a separate thing. Now again, if I get bogged down, get you in closer on this too. If I get bogged down with what to cut out and what not, you can go into Photoshop after you've done, creating all your pictures of a globe Earth, and then you can like change the contrast on the photo that you're using as a guide, so you can really accentuate the differences. Scott uses a method of posterization as well. What you can do is you can set the number of gradations in an image that you have. It can be pretty harsh if you set it really low. Like if you only have 4 steps from lightest to darkest, it's going to look very graphic, but it might also solve a problem for you. It might allow you to see something. You can also set it for whatever you want. So if you set it for something a little bit more gradual, like 10 or 15, 15 will give you pretty much this, but you can certainly kind of work around it and come up with something that will say, okay, now I've got these these areas that I can really see. All right, so I'm going to cut out the side of his face here. What's nice is this defines a lot of the structure of his face as well, the bone structure. Actually, I'm gonna pull this whole area. There's a lot going on here, but again, I'll be able to kind of wing it. Posterize, that's it. Did I say that right? Thanks, Mark. Yes, posterization is what removed all the stars from the moon landing pictures. I'm waiting. Oh boy. Okay, so I've got his basically the frame of his face. So now the other areas, like the areas around his eyes here. So I'm gonna, again, it's just more, it's a lot of picking and choosing, trying to see where those areas transition. For this one here, I'm just going to fold this up. I don't need to remove the whole thing. Above his eye on this side too. And there are a ton of adjustments here. This is so early on. Again, I want to be as accurate as I can, but if I'm not 100% on there, I'll show you kind of how I mess around and adjust things after. And if it looks like this is going to go a lot longer, meaning if it looks like this, if I'm getting to the point where this portrait seems to, going to need, just a lot of back and forth, what I'll try to do is what I do in a lot of the videos, and I'll try to finish one area so you can see the process, and then, I'll just, on my own, I'll just finish up the rest of it. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to run too much over. What is it? I was just going to say, I don't want to run too much over an hour, but we've already run over an hour, so there you go. All right. That's good. That's good. His whole ear. Now, you know what? Yeah, I'll do. So what I'm left with is the dark parts of his ear, this softer shadow on the side of the nose, and, this ear too. So I can't really do much more cutting out this part of his ear because the whole thing will fall out, and I don't want that. I want to get some of these shapes. The same thing on his lips. If I start working on cutting out parts of his lips, I suppose I could get his top lip. But if I cut too much if I cut too much out of it, obviously, the whole thing will fall out, and that doesn't do you any good. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, so we're just going to grab the top of that. It might be good. But the softness underneath his eyes, I'll get those on another one, or maybe not. Maybe not. Let's get those now. And again, for those who have been watching before, when I fold something over like that, that's just an indication to me that it fades from the cutout part to the fold. So that way, when I have a super complex template where I have a lot of cutouts in it, all I do is look at, okay, this one here, it's just pretty much either fill in or, again, use it as a guide and draw through it. If I see this little flap, I know that I fade from the corner of that towards the flap. It's like a Post-it note for me to kind of keep an eye on things. Scott's ears were burning, yes. Exactly. I get that. Actually, this will be a good one too. They start to become very, very subtle, these transitions. But again, if I can catch an edge on it, if I can see where the transition is, then that's what I'll end up cutting out. So that, again, it gives me that guide. Because all these little tiny shadows are the things that's going to make him look like him. The good news is, and this is where you kind of, if you're doing something like this, if I show you, well, let me show you one that isn't cut up. Well, this portrait isn't cut up, but the bottom is. If I show you this to you, this looks like him. You know who this is. So I just have to keep working at mine until mine looks like this, because I know this is possible because I'm holding it in my hand, right? So there's subtlety to these shades and all this stuff, but I'm physically holding that image in my hand. So I can get it to look like this. It's just how much work will it take to get there. So if things are looking sideways, know that there is always a path to this. So again, hopefully that, gives you a little bit of encouragement, because another thing is, I keep saying this all the time, and I think Scott can attest to this. Most paintings look like, there's a point where every painting looks like a train wreck. It's like, it just doesn't, it's in the early stages. It's kind of looking at a house, and once they've got the frame up, yeah, you can get a feel for what that house is going to look like, but it doesn't look like the house in the end. It looks like something completely different. So that's a lot of the truth with these paintings as well. They end up not looking like what they should halfway through. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. So you just got to kind of stick with it. So again, I really, 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 really need to make sure this is lined up the right way. So what I'm doing is I'm looking specifically at the at his eyes, because it's a good bet. Once I get those in place, then I can kind of pick other landmarks, like the bottoms of his ears, which are, or the tops of his ears, which are pretty well established. But again, that's super important that I get, well, it's really important that I get this lined up. If it's not quite right, I mean, again, I can adjust it as I go, but it just means more work. I need that pepped up every time I'm painting. Simon, 100%, 100%. I mean, and that, you'll talk to a lot of artists that will never show people in process photos as they're working on a commission. There's a reason for that, because if you show someone and it's at that stage, especially if it's a portrait, they're like, what the hell is that? It's just so much work to be done to get from the 25% mark to the 100% mark. And people who don't really know the process aren't going to understand that. So that's it. Yeah, there you go. All right, so I've got that really thin black in here, which will work well for this. So again, it's actually, what's popping out there? If there's any question that this isn't lined up, I want to make sure I get it taken care of right away. So what I did is what will normally give that away is, technically I shouldn't see any white in this, what I've cut out, because that's all in this area, but there's a little bit of white poking out at the bottom of his mouth there. So I wanted to double check to make sure, but what I did was I faded it out into this area, so that's okay. But again, it's better to check than to just, drop this in and then have to deal with it later. Yeah, exactly, Simon. Yeah, it's true. And I hope that that's what these videos do, and the open studio and all that stuff, that they kind of give people who are messing with it, that they see that a final painting is not how it looks throughout the entire thing. And a lot of times, it happens to me all the time. I look at a painting that someone did and I'm like, I can't understand how you get there, and it's like, you just think that they're in their studio producing these amazing pieces of art and they all come out great, and it's not always like that. All right. So now again, this is a much lighter gray. Sorry about the whistling. Even though that is, airbrush artists know that is the song of our people. I should use 1:20 on this. And Simon was asking about the reductions, and I did a little bit of a video on that. The reason why I know that I should be using 1:20 here is because I'm doing these really fine fades, but I can't zoom in close enough for you to see it. I don't know if you can. Again, the monitor that I have is not a very clean monitor, so I can't really see how close it is, or yeah, I can see how close it is, but I can't see the resolution that you guys are actually seeing. But this, where I just did his eye, there's a very slight grain to it. If I switch to the 1:20 with this brush, I'll spray that fade and you can't even make out the little droplets of paint. It's that fine. So that's how I know which one to use and how to reduce it. Now I could add a little bit of reduce to this, but it's not worth it. Yeah, paintings do look horrendous, can really look horrendous halfway through. All right, so for this side of it, well, why don't I just keep doing what I'm doing instead of bouncing around? That's probably less frantic for you guys. All right, so I'll finish this area next to his eye. That is such a lovely sound. There we go. All right, so for next to his eye, I think I already hit that. I can always erase it. I'm going to hit it again just in case. All right, and then for the side of his face, it's the same deal. Like I can make out different features in like his temple. So I'm not just going to hose this thing down. I'm going to actually kind of paint what's really there. So the top of his cheek is a little bit lighter, but as it transitions to the side of his cheek, it's darker. So I'm going to start with the darker areas and kind of work with those. Yeah, this is really super grainy. I mean, all right, it's relatively grainy. It's not super grainy, so we're not going to do that. They definitely do. I found that watching live feeds has really helped me be more relaxed during the early middle stages of painting. Yeah, 100%, 100%. When I get to see someone else kind of have the same struggles that I do, it's like, that's what I want to see. And even more so, if they're really struggling with something and then that person has a solution for that, that goes right into my artistic toolbox, you know? It's like okay, now I know because I don't have to go through that. Someone else solved that for me. So that's huge. I'm so relaxed I haven't even painted anything. That is relaxed, Lee. I like that. Yeah, 1 to 10 is still grainy through this brush. So 1 to 20 won't be. Let me just mix this up. I am short one plug in the Visionaire setup. So I have this big long power strip. But since I got a new light, I've had to... I forgot I needed an extra plug. So I've had to unplug my awesome fancy paint shaker. So to do it manually for this feed until I can fix it. Yeah, so this one here is 20 to 1, or 1 to 20 actually. So it's 1 part paint to 20 parts reducer. So this one now, when I spray with this, I'll do it down on his, where the hair is on his chin. Let me get it going first. So now this stuff here, you can't even see it. I mean, it atomizes so finely that it builds up with such control and such... You can't see the droplets of paint. It's crazy. You can as it builds up, but it's pretty amazing. So what I'm going to do here is, again, where his goatee is a little bit darker because it's under his lip, I'm going to kind of block that in a little bit. I'm going to put some paintbrush work on that. So really I'm just using that to draw in. Again, because the paintbrush can do things that the airbrush can't do, like especially the stubble. So I'm just going to kind of indicate the overall value of this, and then I'll go back in and work it over with the paintbrush and scratching. And Mark tore apart his art room. Now it's been sitting for a week. Not relaxed. Just got lazy. And that is absolutely huge. When the pandemic hit and I couldn't go into the studio, to switch to a home-based studio, because I didn't have any home-based studio at that point. I moved everything to the studio. That was a really weird transition. But I knew I had to, because I was trying to earn a living at the time too. But for anyone who's setting up or getting into it, that's the one thing I always say. It's like you have to have a place set up all the time ready to go, because if you have to take everything out, it's like exercise equipment. If you have to set everything up before you get into exercising, there's much likely chance that you won't exercise. The same thing with all this stuff too. If you have to set up your whole art bench and pull out all your paints and get everything going and all this stuff, it's just so easy to say, yeah. But if it's set up and ready to go, a little bit easier. And that's also the huge thing. Time is always there. I can't leave that magnet there because I can't. But it's every step. It's every single, little step. If you can spend 10 or 15 minutes, it's amazing how that builds up. All right, his lip. I don't want to get too far into I don't want to get too far into the temple because I know already that I have a pretty hard edge there they're going to have to deal with. So, I want to keep it on the lighter side so that I can really adjust it, especially with that area that moves into his cheek. I think I've got everything now. Oh no, I didn't get this eye. Like that. Okay. Scott, I have it set up and ready to go, so you just do it and enjoy it. That's exactly it. So the same thing, Scott and I were just talking about, he's working on scale modeling. I know Svi has like I said, it's on Wayne's World. World of Wayne, which is another YouTuber I've been watching because of Svi, who does a lot of scale modeling, and I love that, and I want to get back into it. I have a bunch of stuff that I want to do, but it's neatly packed away in a box, and it never gets done because of that. You know what I mean? Like if I had a separate section of the studio that was just set up for scale modeling and is always set up, I know I'd do it. I know I'd mess with it. So it would be like dismantling the bridge of the Enterprise. Yes. Oh boy. But you mean the shuttle that doesn't exist, Enterprise? Which I believe the space shuttle is really a hot air balloon. I think that was the one I saw. So the main fuel tank is actually a tank filled with helium, and that's what lifts the shuttle off the platform. And yeah, because you want to have two giant rockets next to a giant thing of helium, like a giant helium balloon. Like that's going to work real well. Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well just put hydrogen in it and recreate the Hindenburg. I'm also going to get into tabletop gaming, painting and modeling. Yeah, Scott, that's huge. That's huge. And I'm blown away with the quality of the 3D prints now. It's just crazy. All right. So it's been over an hour. I've got this pretty much blocked in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of concentrate on just one eye to show you how that works, because this is going to take a while. I'm going to have a lot of time in this. And I promise you I will post this when it's done. But this way you guys will kind of get a feel for what the next steps are. It would take a while to get it all, all of it, but this will give you a good idea. I think I want you guys, I don't know if I can do this. Kind of need you on this side because I'm righty to do this. This will be fun if I can pull this off. You guys are not in the normal spot. There we go. But again, you look at this. There we go. You look at this and you look at this, and it doesn't look at all the same. The trick is though, every mark I've put on this painting though now, even though it doesn't look like him, every mark I've put on this is in the right space. It's in the right spot. So what I got to do is I have to fill in the blanks to get it to look like him. So we'll work on his eye. Hopefully it'll come together enough that you'll see it. But let me back this up because I'll show you what I do here. So I got to take another one because I need that one. No, I don't. I'll use this one. So what I need to do is I need to do this flip technique with this. So what I can do is I can just kind of go quickly back and forth, use persistence of vision, which is that idea that what you're looking at stays in your like kind of conscious in your vision for a split second after. It's the reason why movies work, because you're seeing a bunch of stills all in a row and your brain is blending them together. Works the same way here. In order to do that really cleanly, what I do is I take this and I'll you won't see this because it'll be on the side, but I'll roll this over the edge so that this will have a curve like this to it. So I'll do this on the side of the Visionaire. Let's see. Wayne building a Thunderbird 2. It's really good. Yeah. I actually, I put a huge crease in this. That was dumb because I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to get another one. Yeah, it's been fun watching that. And again, I thank Svi for pointing me in that direction. Do I not have another one? Get out of here. No, I do have a ton. Good. Thought I didn't print out enough of these. So I'm going to grab a new one here. And I'll not suck now when I do this. All right. So what I'm doing is, well, I'll turn the camera so you can see it. It's stupid and easy, but it made a big difference when I was kind of doing this. So I would normally just, flip it. I'll actually get you on the palette cam over here. So what I do is I take the copy, flip it upside down, and then just kind of run it back and forth on a 90-degree edge. This is very similar to when you have a ribbon on a package and you run the scissors on it. It creates this really nice soft curve like that. So I'll show you how that comes into play now. Over here. What else we got? PC vinyl cutter, 3D printer, airbrush, dining room table. Yeah, exactly. All right, where am I at? I don't know where I'm at. I got to be on this side because the flippy thing you won't be able to see if it's on the other side. So we're stretching all the way across. That's going to work. All right. So what I got to do is I line this up really well, and it's just back and forth like this, and it becomes that, almost like that cartoon thing, that flip book thing we used to do as a kid. Well, kids don't do it now because, you know, they don't need to, but when we were kids and we did flip book stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm just really lining it up perfectly, and I'm just kind of staring at it, and as soon as I'll see that this image matches this one perfectly, that's when I know it's in the right spot. If it isn't, I'll just keep making adjustments to it. And this is what I use these big square jumbo magnets for. Because now this thing isn't going to move. I could probably pick up this Visionaire system with those magnets attached on there. That's not going to go anywhere. So now I know that that's really in the right spot. And I'll double check it. I'll keep double checking it. What's really nice about this stage too, I'm going to put you guys straight on so you can kind of get a feel for that flippy thing, and then I'll move you back so that you can see me working on it. The flippy thing, that is the actual technical term for that. So yeah. All right, so you're pretty much right in the middle of it now. So when I flip this back and forth, if you kind of stare at it, you can see that everything on here is in the right spot, even though, again, this looks nothing like him right now. It looks like an old man or something, I don't know. But as I flip this back and forth, you can see that everything is in the right spot that I put down. So that way, that gives me confidence to know that as I work on this, it'll eventually look like that. Right now it doesn't, but it will. So let's do a little bit of that so you can see what that's all about. And this flip thing has been around forever. This is not a new thing. So I do not claim anything on this. It was taught to me, or I saw someone doing it at some point, and that's kind of tight. I don't want that. There we go. So there we go. What I miss while you're doing this? I got to get my crawler built. SG4RC, that's crazy. See, I love good model talk. All right. So let's mess with his face. You got the yay, palette cam. Good. So I got a new, this is totally the UK edition. I just realized this. So my favorite brush is a Winsor & Newton Series 7 brush. These are from Winsor & Newton, who is a UK-based company. Although I believe that these brushes are made in their factory in France. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, Winsor & Newton is a UK company, and this brush was invented for the Queen way back when she was getting into watercolors. So they designed this brush series for her. It is quite a brush series. All right, so what I've got on the palette is I've got black and white down in here. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. I ran out of space here, so I'm going to kind of move in between the two to make what I need to have happen. This wet palette too came to me because of the modelers in the world. So this is a red grass wet palette, which I found because of the scale modelers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of really over reduce some of this to get a really light gray, or to a really thin paint. This again, this is the opaque black from Createx right here, and this first reservoir is 4011 reducer. So it's the same stuff I use to paint with, airbrush with, so it's all one system. Yeah, Mark, that came by accident. That I will take credit for. As I do this normally, the paper rolls. So what had happened was I had to switch, something happened to the one I was using, and I had to put a brand new one on, and it was perfectly flat, and I'm like, this sucks. I liked the old one that it was all rolled, and I'm like, dumbass, you can actually roll it yourself. So that's how that happened. All right, so what I'm going to do with this gray, and you guys are in a bad spot for me, so I may have to go almost straight down. So hopefully this might be kind of wonky for you guys, but I hope it works, because I got to be able to see straight on like you guys are. Let's try going more down at this. Yeah, you'll get kind of an upside down view of it, but hopefully you'll get the feel, because I really got to be able to see this. But I can't put the camera on the left-hand side because you won't see it over the copy. All right, and I'll zoom you guys in a little bit. Maybe that'll make it better. Yeah, let's move this one more time just so you guys get more in the center. But you'll get the technique down, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the end. All right. Honey Rivera, what's up, pal? All right, so I'm going to start working on this eye here. So again, now all that time that I was messing around, the paint had dried in the brush, so I got to re-palette it over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of stare at it, flip it, and then that'll help me put this in the right spot. And I need this even lighter, so thin this out a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at like above his eyelid right here. Now, if at any time I'm doing this and I realize that it isn't lined up, I'll stop and you know, just make sure that this is all lined up. Because at this stage, now I'm committing to this. I'm putting things in where they have to be exactly. If it's not exactly in the right spot, this will really screw up the painting. Because it'll, yeah, again, it won't take much for this to be, to kind of not look like him. Because the details are so close together, and if they're not, you know, if they're not perfect on there, then it's not gonna look like him. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of using the same theory that I kind of did in the beginning. I'm kind of doing the darkest areas first, like that crease right above his eyelid, because I'll be able to use the airbrush to kind of fade it in. I really should have my glove on too. Do that. Yeah, I'm glad I did this because this is going to take a little bit. I can't use this glove for this. What the heck? Where's my glove at? There we go. I plan on painting the body soon on mine. I just have to figure out a theme for this Jeep body. Also, I need to get a motor for it. Yeah, that must be... I don't know how easy it is to swap out the bodies for RC stuff. I have a feeling it's pretty easy, but I also know they're kind of expensive too. But it must be... I don't know. I don't know if I could... I don't know, I'd feel like I'm stuck trying to figure out what to commit to it, you know, what to put on it. But you might be able to just swap it out easy, I don't know. All right, again, I'm concentrating on the darkest areas. Again, the top of his lid here has a bunch of shading on it, but I'm not worried about that. I'll do that with the airbrush. All I'm concerned with right now is getting in anywhere where it's, you know, where there's a definite, you know, shape or darkness. That's too much. Now, say something goes wrong, see if I can find a spot that I can purposely screw it up. I kind of don't want to because this is coming out all right. But, all right, no, around his eye. So you guys are close enough. Around his pupil of his, or his, the iris of his eye, I kind of hit it and it's kind of like it's spiderwebbed a little bit. There's some extra paint there. So you can always, what's nice about this base coat sealer is it scratches really, really well. And if I'm careful, if I put paint where it shouldn't be, like there, again, it's spiderwebbed over here too, I can really lightly just kind of scratch that off. You can also erase on this too. So if I had a fine enough eraser, I could remove that as well. So you can see the back and forth you can do is infinite, really. I mean, as much as you can see, that's the back and forth that you can do. So it's not like, that's the other big thing when I'm working on stuff like this. Sometimes you feel like when you put a mark down, it's permanent. You know, you've chiseled it into stone. And that's really, really an important thing to kind of get out of your head. You can fix almost anything. I mean, really. So if things don't look the way they should, it means you still have a chance to kind of mess around with it and get it to work. Thomas, no, not always. I picked a specific look for him because it's the look as someone, we were talking about this earlier on his channel, when someone has something completely like you can't even believe it or can't even argue with it, he'll have this look and then he'll just immediately switch back to the person in the, you know, in the crazy video. So I wanted to get that look. So no, normally he isn't doing this. All right, so that crease on the top of his eye. Now, underneath his eye, you can see just the really lightest indication of his bottom eyelashes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run back over to the palette and I'm going to really, really wash out the black. because I got to get that line in there where that is, and it's just about here. So what I'll also do sometimes, especially when I got to get the line exactly, instead of doing the line, I'll do like almost like a dotted line. So that way I'll be able to kind of see where it's supposed to go, and I can always connect the dots after. So it's back and forth. This area right here is more like it's all shaded, so I can kind of indicate where the edge of that is. And the white also comes down farther too, which I can also take care of. So I'll do it all. I'll mess around a little bit of everything here. Just, again, kind of get you a feel for it. And it's amazing, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the smallest parts of the smallest details in our faces are what really makes us us. But again, our brain kind of blends it all together. So you don't always realize it. So again, as I'm doing these portraits, if I choose to either consciously or subconsciously leave something out, it's going to affect the way the final thing looks. You know, if I'm having trouble with something, if it doesn't quite look like what it's supposed to look like, almost all the time it's because I left something out. So it's just a matter of kind of hunting that down and finding it. What else I miss? Honey, I did today. Actually, Scott McKay was number 1,000. So because that, as soon as I'm done here with you guys, I'm going to put up a post, and I'll let you guys in on it first. So there'll be a post on the front of my page, and all you got to do is, if you've subscribed, which I hope you have, just comment on that post, and what I'll do is I'm going to do a random drawing from that post and give someone a 543 as a 1,000 subscriber celebration, I guess. What I really wish I could do is just convert, you know, a lot of the other platforms, you know, just find a way. And I know that comes from, you know, promoting it and talking to people, but having spent so much time on Facebook and Instagram and building those up and everything, it's, you know, it just seems, I don't know, lopsided, I guess. Choppy, what's up? From Florida. What's going on, buddy? Glad you finally got your stuff and you're settled. That's really good. Happy about that. Kind of wish I was in Florida right now. It's cold here and nasty, so. All right, so again, hopefully you're watching. Well, not hopefully you're watching, but hopefully you can see kind of what I'm doing. So remember how I cut out, you can see it in this eye especially, that circle is not a circle. So I don't try to cut the outside of the circle perfectly because I can't do it. It just doesn't happen. So I always come inside of it because I know I can paint the circle really cleanly. But that way I'm not, because it's easier to add paint than it is to remove. Excuse me. So if I really, you know, kind of tried to cut that exactly, I'd have to then go around the outside edge and, you know, clean it up that way. This way I just have to paint it. I just have to run around the edge and clean it up. Good, Chop. I'm glad. You deserve a chance to be able to hang out for a bit and catch your breath. Yeah, it's going to take a while. I love this. This makes me happy. Originally, you know, like I said, I got a great message from SciManDan when I posted this. So I kind of wanted to get this flying this week, but if it doesn't happen, that's okay. I'll finish it, then post it, and then I'll send it out to him. So it'll be good. I am pleased. Again, if you look at that, it's like, no, that doesn't look like him. But it will. We must have faith. Yeah, Dan got the painting of Buzz Aldrin. Of course, Dan, since we're on this, you know, this feed today, you understand that Buzz Aldrin did not walk on the moon, that was all a Hollywood studio. One of my favorite Buzz Aldrin videos, and I know I don't know. I mean, it was just a moment of, even though I don't condone violence at all, it was a classic Buzz Aldrin moment. He had someone cornering him and calling him a liar and saying that he never walked on the moon and all this stuff. And it just got to the point that the guy had him cornered, and Buzz hauled off and punched him in the face. That was real. He didn't Photoshop that. Look, and if you want to get into it, it's like I said, the arguments are amazing for all of that. Both that it never happened, that NASA has been spending. Here's the way I kind of condense all this. The money that people are saying NASA's getting and keeping for themselves would easily be overshadowed by the cost of keeping such a huge lie going. The amount of money that they'd have to spend to keep this hoax going far outweighs what American taxpayers put into them. Far outweighs it. So literally doesn't make any sense, but makes for good TV. All right, so I've switched back to the airbrush now. I'm going to leave this in the same spot. So now what I can do is I can kind of do the same thing. So I'll look like, especially in the corner of his eye here, and it's not dark enough in mine. So now I'll just do the same thing. I'll flip it and then kind of start adding to that shading. So now this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, I've done the work of kind of mapping it out with the original step, and then I've kind of sharpened it up with the paintbrush. So now I can use the airbrush and kind of finish up that the fades and the values that aren't quite there. So there is a moment where the 1 to 20 might also not be reduced enough or is smooth enough. In that instance, and I'm not quite there yet, but it could get there, what I do is I'll add a little bit more. I'll add a little bit of 40-50 to it, which is this mix right here. This is just the reducer and then the gloss clear from Createx. That gloss clear really helps to smooth things out. And just a couple drops of that in the really light versions of this will really kind of smooth it out and keep it going. Bigfoot. I haven't seen the Bigfoot one yet. Yeah, we'll have to. I know if you're a member, if you're a Patreon member of Dan, that he will do this thing where they'll vote for what what's gonna come up next, what he's gonna kind of do videos on. This isn't good either, as far as the angle. So yeah, that would be funny. I actually, in all the Tinfoil Tuesdays, I haven't seen one Bigfoot one yet. I also haven't seen any Loch Ness Monsters yet either. So that's interesting. You would think where he's at, someone would come across with that one. So I'm going to put you guys here for a second. This is pretty much right in my way, but you guys will get a better view of what I'm doing here, at least for this little bit. So again, now I've got all this white, all this roadmap of the white in. I've got the nostrils in. I've got the the pupils and the rough eyebrow places. So now it's actually pretty easy to kind of see where things are supposed to go. So that makes it a whole lot easier between the kind of flipping thing, and I just poke the painting with my airbrush, which is bad. Between the flipping thing and then just kind of using the things that are already on there, it can really like kind of set things up for where they need to be. What I may do, so you guys can see it, is I might run a quick time lapse on this painting too. That way I can set up the camera and you guys can watch it happen in real time. So, or not in real time, but Mothman. Yes, exactly, Simon. See, you guys know. There is a where my son went to school. He went to the University of Vermont, so Lake Champlain is there, and there's people swear that there's a monster in there as well. I love it. I love it. Makes me happy. But as I do this, you guys can see it. See how it's like the piece is missing on mine. He kind of looks like George W. Bush right now. But as I kind of get those, as long as what I'm doing here matches up exactly, as long as nothing's out of place, eventually I'll get to this, which is fun. So that's how it works. Again, I'd love to keep you guys on for 4 hours so I can actually show you in real time how it does come together, because I have a feeling that, you know, people will look at this and go, there's no way it'll get to where it's supposed to get to, but it does. So let me show you one more thing before I probably call this one for now. So this edge here, see how this edge right along here on the side of his face is really like sharp? That I did the stencil thing I told everyone not to do. So if that happens, again, it's not a big deal. I can use like an eraser. This is a 7058 eraser from Faber-Castell. What I can do is I can take that edge just really lightly and just kind of knock that edge back. And I think this is the white that did it. It's hard to tell because the gray I put on here is lined up really well with it. So I can't really tell which is the offensive color here. But as long as I'm careful with it and light, I can just remove that hard edge. Again, so it goes to there isn't really anything that you could do to really screw this up. Because look at it, even if the whole thing goes sideways, say I dump paint on this, I can always just repair that paint, respray the whole thing, and start over with the steps, you know? So it really gets to the point where there's not too much that can be devastating. Yeah, a painting get to the point where if I dump paint on this and it's actually takes longer to repair it than to completely start over. I mean, there's that. Occasionally that happens, but I haven't had that happen in a long time. So that's it. Jesse lives about a half hour from Mothman's home and I haven't seen him yet. Yep, I spent, I don't know, I spent my life waiting to see a UFO. I mean, no. I spent my whole life waiting to see an extraterrestrial spacecraft, and hasn't happened yet. Not that I think we're, you know, I know we're not the only intelligent life in the universe. That would be amazingly egocentric, but yeah. All right, so I have white in the brush now. So where his eye is kind of like lower than, like I didn't have all the white. So I can start to pick that in the same way. And the same thing on the side, like the white in his eyes on this side wasn't white enough, but that's okay, because I can just, again, I could just kind of mess with it till it's right. I could put the, well, I'm not going to put the highlight in yet. That's usually last. It's kind of like the reward for doing a good job for me. Like if I get the highlight in, it means the eye is done. So, but stuff like that is always at the end. So again, I can use white on the gray. Like I said, you know, it would shift blue. I can certainly do that. Like I can, if this is, like I think it needs to be a little bit brighter here on his eyebrow, or right below his eyebrow, I can go in with the white and spray that, and it's not going to shift blue because there's already white there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I do that base color with the white. I just kind of get it in the right spots so that as I need to add to it later, it ends up being in the right spot. Or not ends up being in the right spot, but it doesn't shift that blue the way it would normally. Charge my phone. Excellent, Choppy. That's great. Look forward to seeing more of you around now that you're settled. All right, so I'm going to jump out to, again, this is really over-reduced white. So what I can do is I can kind of indicate where I need to, not like that because that's too much, but like where I need to come down with the white a little bit more, like I didn't come down far enough, I can do that with this white too. And also lighten up areas that needed to be lightened up, like in the corners of his eyes, to be a little bit brighter. Now, spraying white with a whole bunch of control, like the black, is not as easy. So I'd rather get a lot of the really tight details in the white done with the brush, so that way I don't have to fight it. Yeah, that's looking good. And again, if I do the flip trick, as long as what I'm looking at, see, all right, here's a good one too. So underneath his eye, there's that, he's got some shading there, but I don't really have it on mine. So so I need to like extend the white and then add the shading, but all that's coming in. He does look like George W. Bush, which is not intentional at all. They might not airbrush stuff on other worlds. I would be so bored. Yeah, Jim, I wouldn't go to a planet that didn't have, compressed gas so I could airbrush. But then, if I go to, I don't know, Jupiter, then I could do hydrogen brushing, I guess. All right, let me back you guys up. I'm going to switch out here. So I'm going to turn off the palette cam, and thanks to Scott for hooking me up with all my fun new camera setups. We'll get that way, and then we can switch over to this. Well, let me get this all the way out of the way, I think. I don't need that anymore. Actually, I just killed you guys. There we go. Sorry about that. So that's it. So that's what we got. Again, it was what, hour and a half. There was a lot of work on that. But what I will do is I'll try to do a little bit of that as a time lapse too, so that you guys can see the whole process coming together. And I will certainly post that. I have an idea for the mat as well. I'm going to put a little, detail on the mat that will kind of tie that together, and then that'll head off to the UK. So that'll be great. And that's what I got. So it was a great feed. Thank you all for. It was a great feed because of the 1,000 mark. I'm so happy you guys were here for that. That was awesome. And thank you to Scott for everything, for that, being that 1,000th person, and also for the advice on the switcher and all that fun stuff. And if you're around tonight, everyone, I know he gets on late for the UKers, but if you're around tonight, check out Scott on his feed, Down and Dirty Tricks. And he's Scott McKay. If you haven't already subscribed to SciManDan, that's his link right there in the first comment. So do that. He is a blast. He's a lot of fun to kind of catch up with, and it'll send you down the rabbit hole. It'll be a lot of fun. I don't know if you'll regret it or not, but I'm having a great time doing it. So that's what I got. All right. So for Steve Leahy and Thursday Live, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. Thanks a lot.